Yeah, building and scaling Cloud Native Nordics tips, tricks, and lessons learned. This is what we're going to talk about. But before that, let's just introduce ourselves a little bit. I think you are up first.
Yes. So I'm Lucas. I've been running the CNCF meetups in Finland for about 2 years. Also, before in parallel, doing KubeADM, C-Cluster Lifecycle, C-Cluster Lifecycle lead, that kind of stuff. Contractor for WeWorks, but now I'm actually studying, so in university. Weave Ignite, Kubernetes on ARM, that kind of stuff, if you're familiar. Cool.
Yes. My name is Kasper. I work as a site reliability engineer at a company called Lunar from Denmark. I'm also a CNCF ambassador, as mentioned, and I run a meetup group in a city called Aarhus. And we are part of the Cloud Native Nordics community together. Also have a blog about KubeCloud, or called KubeCloud. A lot of stuff about Raspberry Pis and Kubernetes on that as well, if you're interested in stuff like that. So, but it's not only us. We are growing this community, and there's a lot of awesome people that are helping us grow this community. So we'll just want to give them a shout out as well, because they do an immense amount of work to get this up and running and basically doing meetups all over across the Nordic countries.
Yeah, and there's more of them, just the organizer parties, than these.
Yeah, this is what we're going to talk about. Running a meetup, how easy is that, right? It can't be that hard to just gather some people, talk about the stuff that you're interested in. So we'll talk a bit about that. Then about our experiences actually running meetup groups in standalone in different cities. And then introduce what we have been doing for the past approximately a year or something like that with Cloud Native Nordics, and build a lot of tools, and we'll go spend the majority of the time actually explaining what we've been doing there.
So. Cool. So, how hard can it be to run a meetup? It always kind of, not always, but it sometimes turns out as this kind of thing. So share a bit about how you can do this. And just to name a few of these is first, say you just yesterday had a meetup and then you're already today have to start seeking who wants to speak, who can sponsor, getting that to run is just a non-stop of work. Yeah, exactly. So also in Finland and Aarhus, it's in smaller places. Also, it can be challenging to find these kinds of persons. One thing we've been experimenting with is recordings, but it's also a lot of work, and neither of us are professional video editors or TV, quality streamers. Yeah. So it's before realizing all the pitfalls of how to do things. It's been quite some things. But actually one of the major things is how can we build a social media and community marketing around these kinds of things? How can we make it attractive for speakers, but also sponsors and attendees to come to these places? Then everything that has to do with building a community, sustaining it, keeping people engaged, keeping the community healthy, being inclusive to new ideas, experiences, and that kind of thing. So that's kind of, we just started kind of doing it, and we're learning as we go. But a bit about how I started it. I came to Seattle in 3 years ago at KubeCon, and I saw one of the TackPoint Cloud meetups the day before, and was yeah, I want to do this. It's amazing. And then half a year later or something like that, I went to Helsinki. I lived 500 kilometers from the capital in Finland, so it's also logistical issues. But so I had to find other co-organizers in the capital which could help with logistics, networking. I found Anni and Teemu. Then a couple of months after that, 3, 4, we had our first meetup in Helsinki and have been running those on bi-monthly basis, approximately. But then I found myself doing a lot of work, which is just like, a lot of it is repetitive, but also a lot of it is like network, like how can I find these people and how can I sustain the group. So I just chatting with Kasper and we're thinking, sharing these stories with each other, and we find out that, well, let's do something together approximately a year ago. Then expanded to new cities, Tampere and Turku, approximately second and third largest in Finland. And now, where we want to get you involved too, is building these kinds of tools and using these kind of tools for building communities, which is, yeah, a pretty interesting thing. We're hoping to get broader traction with this. Just short about Helsinki, we have approximately 800-900 members. Tampere, which we started like January this year, 200. And yeah, a fair amount of activity, but still we've trying to find different ways of expanding it. So all of these, we're going to talk about the solutions here, but basically everything, like finding speakers, graphical profiles. Now we're kind of finding slowly this kind of thing with Cloud Native Nordics, but just copy-pasting boilerplate all around has been challenging, which we're now solving together with a lot of new ideas from these that you saw in the first pictures with our co-organizers.
Yeah, we had some of the same story in Aarhus, I guess. I'm been living in this city called Aarhus. It's the second largest city in Denmark, just for you that don't know. It's around 350,000 people, so it's not that big of a city. And yeah, I just wanted to organize meetups. Basically, I wanted somebody to actually to talk to about these new technologies, because back in 2016, I was writing a master thesis called KubeCloud, a small-scale tangible cloud computing environment, where I actually used one of Lucas's projects that he built when he was 16 years old. So that's interesting. That's another story. But yeah, if you're interested, it's on my blog. But then we got the chance to actually present it at a Google developer group in Aarhus, and we got a lot of people coming up, and there was a lot of discussions around these technologies, and this was sort of where the first thought was actually born of we should do a meetup group about these technologies. But at that time, I didn't actually got a job working with Kubernetes. It was still new, and nobody was actually doing this. But then I was lucky to get hired by a company that was sort of moving into this new world and wanted to do Kubernetes. So yeah, I was hired by Lunar, and now we're at Lunar, it doesn't matter. And they had a problem of how do we actually manage microservices, because they were sort of starting this journey of building a lot of microservices, but they sort of forgot the infrastructure and all the management of doing the microservices. So we needed something to actually help us with that, and that's sort of where Kubernetes came into the picture. And at the same time I got hired there, I started a Danish Slack community just to gather some people and figure out who's actually doing stuff around Kubernetes in Denmark, because we need to talk to each other and sort of share experiences. And then half a year later, we created the first meetup group and started talking. And we have been running a lot of meetup groups or meetups since that day. And we actually had 1 month we did 3 meetups, which is maybe too much. But we had some options, and we needed to sort of, we had speakers in town, and we needed to get that up. And yeah, we set sail to the Cloud Native Nordics journey. Lessons learned, it's pretty much the same lessons as Lucas just mentioned. But one thing we found was that in the beginning, there was a lot of one-on-ones, introductory sort of tracks, and we were all sort of learning from scratch. But as we sort of got into it, 2-3 meetups in, we kept digging deeper, and still new people were sort of coming into these meetups, and we were just going full on the deep dives. So what we learned is that we need to sort of have separate tracks to actually get new members in, and still have sort of a way to dive deep. So we created a concept called Hack Nights, where we sort of do one-on-ones, hack on things, discuss sort of more freely, and then we have a track where we can go deep as well. And one important thing that when I started this group was to have multiple companies involved, or multiple entities involved, so that we could keep the momentum of the group going. Yes, so introducing Cloud Native Nordics. Lucas just showed you the back of the t-shirt. This is the same map. This is the cities and the countries that we are sort of have groups in right now. So it's 5 countries and 12 groups. This is the stats. We are almost 6,000 members, roughly. Have done 95 meetups in total across all the different groups. And yeah, that's around 51 average attendees across the group. So that's all right for the sort of the city sizes that we are present in. So that's awesome. But how are we helping each other in sort of this broader community? We do monthly community calls that are public and recorded.
Kind of like the Kubernetes community calls, inspired, or a SIG meeting.
Yeah, exactly. Just discussing different options. Maybe we got a lead on a speaker being in the area. We needed to sort of, do stuff around that. Or it could be everything, basically. What can we do next? How can we help each other in other ways? We got this unified brand. We have t-shirts. We got colors and stuff like that. All the graphics and... Yeah, we're not that good at it, but we actually got a guy from Finland doing some graphics that he just wanted to help us. He's doing this, contributing to the community as well, even though I don't think he actually knows what Kubernetes is, but...
No.
But yeah, he thought the logo was cool, and he wanted to do something with a snowflake, and that's awesome. The tooling will come to that, but also guidelines, code of conduct, all of those things that you sort of need to have when you're a meetup group. We share them as well. Slack community to discuss all the stuff. Website for discoverability so that companies, speakers, international speakers can find us and know we exist. Also show our numbers of our members and stuff like that. We do road shows. We try to help each other with speakers. So we actually, I'm going to show it at a minute. But yeah, we're also trying to do a Kubernetes Community Day. So reach out if you're interested. But back to the road show. We actually, a month ago, did a Nordics tour with Ross Miles, who just wrote about a book about chaos engineering, and Alexander from Lutze about Kube1. And they were just going through 4 different cities in 4 days. So that's something that we are trying to do more, because that's also a way where we can sort of help each other spread the word of Cloud Native, basically. So. Now to the Toolbox, because I think that's where we want to spend the majority of this talk.
Yes.
We are going to talk about 3 different things today. We're going to talk about Meetup Kit, something called Workshop CTL or Cuddle or whatever you guys sort of ecto or sort of into. That's up to you. And then a community website that we have built and done a lot of crazy stuff about as well. So yeah, you get a toolbox, everyone gets a toolbox hopefully at some point. So, back to you.
Cool. So the first thing, so back in December last year, we started thinking, and I was really inspired by how the Kubernetes community is managed. Again, like I've been SIG lead doing that kind of work, supporting the community, helping others grow. And was inspired by how Kubernetes managed its teams, its GitHub teams, and also SIG participation and management through GitHub. So I, started writing some YAML. Right, that's what you do, and like we can call this meetups or like meetups by pull request or whatever that you fancy. But basically what this is all about is that we check in YAML when we're doing our meetups, when we're planning, when we're finding these speakers. we check in information metadata about them in Git. So it's the same Git push flow that we're all used to. And through this, we can integrate with Meetup API in different ways. So it's like, now it's called CloudNativeCon/Meetups, but soon going to become like its own Meetup Kit, which we're hoping that you will be able to use across your community. Because why we're doing this talk pretty much now is to be able to advertise the possibility of, like, if I talked to a woman in Indonesia, so she's running meetups and she wanna like grow this across Indonesia and like all these nearby countries too, maybe, and like how do you do that, and like how can you get that running? Well, with Meetup Kit, you'll be able to. So that's kind of the goal here, and yeah, it's like it's YAML engineering, and we know it's not the optimal solution, but for now, that's what we got. But like having a larger community join us in this mission is really key to finding the venues that work for the most people. So it automatically, it's a Go application, automatically fetches the information it needs from meetup.com. The API, JSON API there, and it generates README files, aggregates a lot of stats in various formats, and then spits out information as a kind of a database for the website that Kasper is going to talk about. So what does it look like? Well, it's a bit small in this presentation, but this kind of, let's see if this, so from, we had a meetup, the one with the roadshow, the 24th of October in Helsinki, and here's the information that I checked in for that. So we have like the agenda, arrived to the venue, then like Nokia was sponsoring, so they had some introductory words, then some updates, and like Russ Miles were talking about like how they're doing chaos engineering and etc. And there we have slides, we have links to slides, we have different kinds of speakers, networking, and down there we have who's sponsoring this meetup. So this kind of information, which is, well, not that complicated in its format, as long as you get the YAML right, which can be another front end in the future, hopefully. What we get is this kind of README in that repo. So this is the way that the Kubernetes community does it, if you haven't checked out the community repo. But we kind of took it some steps further. Yeah, that's then a demo, right? Or like some actual information. So the repo looks like this. We have subfolders for all the cities. For example, if I go in and check Helsinki here, we here see the README. It's getting that from Meetup API. Then submit a talk. We have a Google form. Organizers, it's myself and Annie. We're getting a third one soon. And then the agenda. And here we can see all the slides. You can see all the speakers that's ever been speaking here. And yeah, I mean, go back in time. Because one of the problems was that once I finished the meetup, I forgot what I did. Or like, what we're doing. Like, oh, what, like, it's like, who was speaking like the 22nd February 2 years ago? I don't remember. but here is a good, now I can go directly to the recording in YouTube here, for example. So that kind of thing. But this is my meetup, well, the one I'm organizing, but if I want to know what Kasper is into, I can do the exact same thing. And this way get visibility into what we're doing, and especially as we check in slides, we're hoping to do something like this. This is an awesome project. If you haven't checked this out, just a random shout out. If you haven't checked this out yet, do it. So it's like a GitHub project for aggregating, like basically searching sked.com and pulling out all the slides from all the KubeCon talks. So he's got a lot of, or he has a lot of like, you can choose what KubeCon you like and get all that kind of thing, all those kinds of things visualized. So we're doing the same with this data, and just one of the previews will go into more about the website design, but like here you can see the same thing that I had the YAML for, as the speakers and the agenda and who is sponsoring and that kind of stuff. So, right. To make this happen, you basically go in to the repo where you want to store your data. Eventually then download Meetup Kit once we have it as a standalone binary and run Meetup Kit generate or similar. It's going to do all the things. It spits out these kinds of, the stats you saw in the beginning is from this kind of file. It queries Meetup API for all information, gets to, like, aggregates it in formats that humans like we can understand, otherwise we wouldn't have any idea about how our community actually, what it actually is. So that's kind of the thing, and then going to, so here is, we're still using meetup.com and we're not planning to change, at least not at this moment. And this is, for example, how it looks. But here we're using this kind of the same branding, the same logos, the same styles. We have generators even for this kind of artwork. What you see there is basically Helsinki, the map of Helsinki, layered on top of the CNCF colors.
Yeah, it's called slide background generator. And
you just type into our artwork repo and run make, and you're going to get it. So, and when you have that, we have pre-made templates for these kinds of like, also for the meetups themselves. So if the next one that we have at Intel looks like this, and yeah, this is even a like holiday theme on our on our stuff. So with this, we're solving the problem that we didn't know what to put, and we wanted to have something attractive, but for 2 years I had no idea what that would be. Then CloudNative Nordics on YouTube. There's still in the very beginning of doing live streaming, but I basically bought some gear the last weeks, and now testing it out. Did three live streams 2 weeks ago or something like that. Worked fairly well, but like all kinds of weird issues when you're using a Mac, for example, and using one adapter, one USB-C adapter, it just overheats. So you have to have like 4 different adapters for like each for one HDMI capture and like one for the mic and whatever. So it's like all these kinds of things when you find when you're streaming, not before. Yeah, those kinds of resources, and obviously the Slack helps us collaborate on all these kinds of things. Anything more to say about that infrastructure?
Pretty much it.
So the next thing, the next tool. Let's try again.
What is going on?
I don't know. It's maybe not the year of the Linux on the desktops yet. Anyways, let's do it like this. Yeah. So Workshop CTL is a totally different project, which I kind of came up with the latest month or something like that. We had I was doing workshops in one way. Kasper was doing it in a totally other way, different way. And this was one of the areas where we're like, for your hack nights, for example, where we're like, can we converge them somehow? So again, what do you do when you want to automate something and you're cloud native? You start writing Go and YAML again. So, and so this is what it kind of looks like. It's also up on our Cloud Native Nordics GitHub organization. The key is like we want to find a way to do workshops without everybody having to download 10 gigabytes each from the Wi-Fi just to run Minikube, right? So how can we get 50 persons in a room, make them use Kubernetes, use deployments and services and whatever, even get some public URLs to like test out that, oh, my application was actually exposed to the internet. How can we do this? And especially as people have corporate laptops and they can't install random things and someone has a Chromebook and whatever. Like, when doing it before, it was a real mess.
Yes.
It took 2 hours to
yeah, everybody
to
has their own setup.
Yeah.
So
then we saw this code server project, really amazing, from a Texas-based company, I think. Basically, VS Code is coded in Electron, as far as I know, TypeScript. And it can actually, this code server project makes it possible to run it in a browser. So Workshop CTL runs VS Code in a browser with all the things you need for Kubernetes access. So what happens? We have Workshop CTL init. I say I want this and this provider, this many clusters, and then I do Workshop CTL generate. I get 40 unique sets of YAML, one per cluster. And which sounds terrifying, but yeah, I don't know. Once you want to actually create these cloud resources, you do Workshop CTL apply. So what happens? We have 40 different clusters in a cloud. We got some credits from DigitalOcean, so that's what we're using at this point. Every attendee who comes to the event get their own cluster, which they can break, they can hack around, they can do whatever. It's going to be shut down in 90 minutes or whatever anyways. So they get their own one node cluster with Kubernetes, managed Kubernetes from whatever cloud provider. It's password protected when you come there, and it's like, now it's not visible here, but cluster xx.cloudnativenordics.com, for example. They go into that URL, type in the password for the day, and well, now they get this kind of UI, which is pretty neat. So exactly as VS Coder on the desktop, you have pre-made files of whatever you want to cover in that workshops, like exercises in READMEs and that kind of stuff. Then you write your YAML here for Kubernetes, and you use kubectl, Helm, whatever, in here in the cluster terminal. Everything's installed, and it has, well, at this point, by default, root access to the cluster, which is a feature, not a bug. But as we go, we might adjust that. But yeah, you get everything you need. Syntax highlighting, full ingress support. So if you deploy your whatever sample app, you can actually get a real URL domain, which is automatically set up for you with ingress and all that kind of stuff just working. So that's kind of one random project where we just throw out there. Use the mic, please.
Lucas, this is in the website itself, right? You don't need to go anywhere. The cluster will be in the website, right?
Yes. So you just kubectl inside of this site in the VS Code
so VS
terminal.
Code, we don't need to have VS Code.
No, you don't need to install VS Code. It's in the browser. Oh. You just go to the domain.
Thank you.
And yeah, the project is up here. Workshop CTL, all the YAML for the clusters is, for example, looks like this, to be able to run these kinds of VS Code services. VS Code is running as a pod in this, like traffic, external DNS, ingress, all that kind of stuff set up. Yeah.
Cool. Oops, went too far. Okay, that's awesome. So the next sort of thing that we are building is a community website, because we want a centralized place for basically all our activities to be visible for everybody that sort of has an interest in cloud native in the Nordics. So we want to make it attractive to contribute, to provide speakers, to provide sponsors and all of that. And yeah, I'll show you in a minute how it looks in terms of the sponsors. But also be able to discover close-by events, even though you don't have to, so you don't have to actually be signed up for Lucas's group, but you can still see that this is what is basically happening in the Nordics. Keep track of speakers for us, because we can then sort of find them and share them between. And also, one of the things that we did with this was also to build sort of a reference architecture for how you could run Kubernetes, set up GitHubs and stuff like that. And we went a little bit overboard in terms of engineering a static website, but I'll show you in a minute. Yes. So just quickly show you how sort of the sponsors page look like. So we hope this will be sort of an attractive thing for companies to actually be on this, and they will get on this site, because when they sort of provide a speaker, provide food, provide venue, they will get their logo up there. We are doing different kinds of tiers, sorting and stuff like that, but this is sort of what it is right now. Also our speakers. Right now we're just using GitHub usernames, handles in there to show how they look like, but it's really nice to sort of have this overview. Let me go back. So
can you show the meetup group?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, sure, we can do that. I think we're running
and event, yeah, or events.
So
cool.
Yeah, this is the groups. Everything is fetched. We can see what Lucas showed this before on in the README. Hopefully it's working.
Conference Wi-Fi. If you refresh, yeah. Anyways.
Anyways, there's some details. The same details as you saw in the README is in there as well. With visualization of our organizers. So the setup, it's basically. So what Lucas was talking about with the Meetups repo and the Meetups generation, the output of that is basically just a config.json blob. And we have a Go service that just takes this blob and creates a GraphQL API that a static website can then sort of read and query that data. And that's sort of how it works. And this is sort of all that we are doing to actually run this. I know this, you've probably seen a tweet with like this. Let me just, I'm going back in 2 seconds, but you've probably seen this tweet a couple of years ago. Kubernetes-based infrastructure for static sites. This is basically what we're doing. I know it's engineering, but we want to build a reference stack for our community to actually sort of see how you could use GitHubs, how you can set up stuff. Use Grafana. We have a public read Grafana, so you can see all the stats we have. You can see our config repo that our Flux CD sort of looks at, so you can see all the stuff, and it's basically a reference we can use in our meetups to explain all of these concepts. So it's a really nice way to show that. And we have 1 minute left in this. So you've probably seen this. I can't play this, can I? Oh, I can, yeah. So I just wanted to show you this. You've probably seen it, but it's an awesome video because this is basically what we are doing. And let me... Yeah, pull request, you can create a pull request, Flux, everything, GitHub's flow, yeah, it's out there. Wrapping up. I don't know, you wrote this, probably.
Yeah. So these are the things we have, but where we're still struggling, where we need the community's help is like, how do we handle money? If somebody wants to, if we want to have a speaker from abroad and they can't afford it, how can we take from those who are willing to pay for that speaker to come? How can we just practically manage that? Is it community bridge? Do we need to create non-profit organizations? Whatever. Better developer experience for our tools, yes. YAML is not the best format to use. It's what we got at the moment. Ideas there would be really nice. Social media, marketing, and that kind of stuff. It's just hard. And having accountability in the system and that kind of making it structured across all the organizing places would be really nice.
Yeah, and just to end this talk, I think alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much more. And I think this is awesome. But yeah, it's basically about community, and I don't think we have time for questions. We are.
How about
We've got time for 1 or 2.
Okay. Cool.
One question regarding the Meetup Kit.
Yes.
You said it's syncing with the Meetup API. Is it just pulling data from the Meetup API, or can you just set the Meetup in the YAML and it's automatically gonna push the meeting to Meetup and create the event in there and all that jazz. I'm not familiar with the
Yes,
API.
we want to get there, but for this moment, it's just pull.
Got it. Thank you.
So 2 questions. Can we add Sacramento to this meetup?
So yes, so the thing about Meetup Kit is that it's just a binary. It's just a Go binary, so that you can, to any Git repo, download it, start writing your YAML file, and upload to whatever. So it doesn't have to be in our place, like under our anything. You can create your own personal repo, check in some YAML files, do make generate, and boom, you can reference from the site and that kind of stuff.
Okay. So the second one now, the meetup, they're going to charge the organizers for the meetups, right? How do you guys manage that one?
So yeah.
Yeah, so you say.
Okay. So 2 things. They don't do it for, they never intended to do it for things which are part of a pro network, where CNCF already kind of, which is, CNCF has a pro network. They already pay Meetup for the things. And 2, they actually kind of reverted their decision afterwards to like, okay, let's not be that quick. Like, let's be an opt-in.
Yeah, and all our groups in the 12 groups are part of the pro network within the CNCF.
Yeah,
Also.
recently we added Sacramento to that program, but before that it was not. That's what. Recently we added the Sacramento group into that one. Before that it was not. That's what I did.
Yeah, but it's not a problem now that they reverted and said it's an opt-in.
So yeah, so I just want to say in general, thank you for this work, because I think, you know, community organization and management, like this extremely lowers the barrier to entry. I think like myself, like running around trying to do stuff and wanting to form meetups, like it's very hard, but like tools like this, I'm like, oh, I might do it now. So thank you, yeah. So we're at time. Thank you everyone for showing up. Please drop some feedback in Sched and give these guys a round of applause.
Cool.